Okay, we should be live. Hey, what's up YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here, and for my Friday video I decided I'd go live. I was actually checking on YouTube last night and saw a pretty handy Star Wars questionnaire. So I figured I would just go over the answers, the questions and my thoughts and my answers on that. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it here. First question on the questionnaire is Jedi or Sith. So I'm a bit of two minds on this. Now, honestly, like if I had to choose ultimately, I would probably choose Jedi. Jedi, like I feel like I'm more in tune with the philosophy of it. I'm not, a raging psycho. Their ultimate goals, like the things that they want to do, they strive for like peace and tranquility and things like that, are more things that I'm in tune to, and some ultimate goals for myself as far as happiness and things like that go. So I think ultimately I would be a Jedi. Having said that, though, it's easy for most of us to say that, we live in the world where, there really isn't superpowers or anything like that. And the temptation of power is, one of the main, is usually the main catalyst for a Jedi in the series to fall to the dark side. The power to create change or to shape things the way they want to do it. And so I think for that, I think that the dark side is very tempting in that sense. You think about it in just as a real world setting. I work in retail, and so, every now and then I'll have a customer that, oh my God, you just want to slap in the face. Honestly, that's just the way it is. Or you think about, growing up in school, if somebody was bullying you, or, you got a bunch of people picking on you, it's easier for us to turn the other cheek and just ignore it, in a real world setting. But say, for instance, you had the power to use the force to choke out somebody that you didn't like, or somebody that was picking on you, or somebody that got on your bad side. If you had the ability to just take care of it just like that, I think that's very tempting. And I think that is more, like I said, I think then, in that scenario, I think more people would fall to the dark side or choose the dark side, because it's instant results, as opposed to following the path of the Jedi. So next question is favorite worlds. So favorite worlds, I guess, in the Star Wars universe. Me being here in the Midwest, I'm a country boy, so if I had to choose, I would say Dantooine. I like just the rolling hills and plains of Dantooine. It was really cool in the Knights of the Old Republic game on the original Xbox when you got to visit Dantooine, and there's a Jedi enclave there, and that's where you actually, you become a Jedi, you get your Jedi powers and stuff like that. So Dantooine is really cool. If I had to pick a second option, I would probably say Naboo. Or maybe some place that kind of has a mixture of the two. Naboo, has a lot of bustling city centers and stuff like that in the kingdom. But then they have wilds and nature, beyond the city's gates. Onderon is another place like that. Although Onderon has a lot of vicious monsters and predators. So maybe I would stay clear of Onderon. But city, worlds like that. Going on here, favorite, let's see, type of lightsaber, color, and fighting style. Now, I just released a video earlier this week of my Prophecy V3, so it would be a straight lightsaber, very much like that. Actually, I still have the hilt right here, so be something like this, a single-bladed lightsaber. I say that because I would probably dabble. I like martial arts a lot, so I'd probably dabble in all styles. And I think all 7 forms of lightsaber combat, the traditional 7 anyway, were devised with the single standard lightsaber in mind. So with that being said, I wouldn't have to modify things and change things up, too much. So it'd be easier for me to pick up a bunch of the different forms. If I were to pick just one form though, one or two. I really like Makashi a lot. I like the dueling centric style, and so it would probably be Makashi with maybe a secondary in like Sarisu or Ataru. I could use Sarisu to shore up, a lot of my defenses. Or I take that back. I'd probably do Makashi and Jimso, or not Jimso, but Shien, because Shien is kind of like a more aggressive defense. So I would learn some more aggressive and more, some different attacks, as well as using the Shien blocking and parrying and riposte to shore up my defense. Which Makashi does usually have a good defense, but not so much towards blast deflection. So I'll use Shien to cover that gap while using the offensive properties of Shien and Makashi to increase my dueling prowess. So that's what would be a Form 2-5 hybrid. Let's see. Favorite species is the next question. My favorite species, I don't know. Being human, I guess I'm just kind of biased to humans. Twi'leks are cool. They're pretty human-like. So Twi'leks are cool. Nautolins are cool. So yeah, like I said, I'd probably say either Twi'leks or humans. So on that, let's see. Favorite vehicle. A favorite vehicle in the Star Wars franchise for me is probably... I'll say probably the X-Wing. That's probably a pretty generic answer, but thinking about it, like when I think about vehicles, like that's like usually the first thing that pops to mind. The X-Wing is super iconic. Ever since I saw it in the original Star Wars, and they had that dogfighting scene at the end. And one of my favorite airplanes in real life is the P-51 Mustang. And seeing that dog-style battle at the end of Episode 4 where they take down a Death Star, it was very reminiscent of like a World War II battle, which is what they were going for. And so I think for me, that's why I like the X-Wing the best as far as my vehicle goes. And it has a lot of other benefits. I mean, it's pretty a self-sufficient craft. It's got decent armament. It can try. You don't really need like a fleet to accompany. It's a long-range aircraft. I mean, it can travel in light speed by itself, things like that. So I'm just going down the list here. Okay, if I were a Jedi, which master would I want? If I were a Jedi, which master would I want? I would say maybe either Ulic Qel-Droma. Ulic Qel-Droma is a Jedi of the Old Republic era who fell to the dark side and became Exar Kun's apprentice during the Great Sith War. He eventually was captured by the Jedi, and Nomi Sunrider used the Sever Force ability to cut his connection to the Force, and so he lost all his special abilities. He ended up turning back to the light side, turning in, giving up Exar Kun, and so they were able to, subdue him. Years later, he goes on an exile, and Nomi Sunrider's daughter, Vima Sunrider, he actually trains her in the ways of the Jedi before being killed by a spacer. I can't remember what his name was, but he was just somebody trying to make a name for himself, and so gunned him down. But I would pick either him or, because he was a fantastic duelist. Exar Kun is especially during his era, was one of the greatest fighters, the greatest duelists the galaxy had ever seen. And Ulic Qel-Droma could fight him to a standstill. I mean, they were basically evenly matched. Ulic Qel-Droma may not have been quite as powerful in the Force, but like I said, he has a large world perspective. So I think I would choose him. If I were choosing somebody more recent, I think I would choose someone like Anya Kuro. She was a hard ass, and she almost borderline abused her students. But I mean, she had a lot of cool insight, and she had a lot of unique powers. Things that I think I could pick up, from her. So I would choose those two. And I think on the flip side, they're asking, yeah, my favorite Sith Master. Who would I want for my Sith Master? And most of the Sith Masters, I mean, most of them are psychos. So I don't know if I would, which ones I would choose. Being a Sith, I mean, the apprenticeship is going to be tough, like, regardless of how you slice it. So I think, though, if I were to pick a Sith Master, it would probably be Darth Tyrannus. Darth Tyrannus or Count Dooku. He seemed to be like, I don't know, his motivations for becoming a Sith and for falling to the dark side seemed noble enough. Yes, he committed many atrocities during the Clone Wars, but I mean, he was someone who I believe never quite fully fell to the dark side, or at least fell in line with all their traditional philosophies of, just becoming, like somebody like Palpatine on the other side, like Darth Sidious. Like, he was a maniac, like, who never cared about really the rule of two. Like, he wanted to move toward more of a Darth Krayt, like, rule of one type thing, and he wanted to rule forever, and so he had no problem, sacrificing his apprentices to reach those goals. Like, he didn't really care. Like I said, it looked like he was looking for somebody to succeed him, but really I feel like he was just looking for somebody, whom he could, consume and take over. Like, he was working with what was it called? The essence transfer ability and stuff like that. A lot of stuff in the EU, and you'll see what I'm talking about, where he's like cloning bodies of himself, and then he's trying to take over the bodies of other people before he's finally vanquished. Like, stuff like that. Like, I feel like Sidious, like, I mean, the Sith are not to be trusted anyway, but I feel like, he would take me on as apprentice only to further his own goals, and then he would toss me aside. So that's why I would choose Count Dooku. Let's see. If I were a Sith, what would my Sith name be? I honestly have no clue. Sith names, they're usually, something kind of like evil, or like Darth, like Darth Tenebris or Darth Sidious or something like that. I don't know. I think I would choose like something else. Or maybe I would just keep my name. I don't know. That wouldn't really, it's not up for me to decide. It's up for my master to decide. Once I become, finish my apprenticeship and become like a Sith Lord, he would dub me and give me, a name. So, honestly, I don't really know. Let's see. My favorite soundtrack. Which film has my favorite soundtrack? So, I will probably say Revenge of the Sith. It's got a lot of pulse-pounding, just high-energy soundtracks. It's very dark. I would say also I like Rogue One a lot. There's a lot of new tunes in that, and new scores and compositions. Including the main theme. Like I think the soundtrack for Rogue One is very good. So it'd be either one of those two. Let's see. Do I collect figures? I don't collect figures. I do have a collection of lightsabers, but as far as like figures, I don't really collect figures. I would like a couple of I would like a 4 foot, like 3 or 4 foot, like Darth Vader, and like maybe a couple of stormtroopers to flank him. I saw it at a flea market like a long time ago, and it's in like one of my earlier videos where we're looking at those, but I want to get a hold of those, and I will have those 3 in here in my game room, and that would be awesome. But that'd be as far as it would go. Let's see. In my opinion, what is the best thing about the EU? The EU for me, like Star Wars, the Star Wars franchise in general was the first thing that opened my eyes to a franchise like that had like world building, or things like that. Like, I mean, what you see in the feature films is only a small shot of what's actually going on in the big picture. Of course the EU kind of doesn't exist anymore, but for those of us who still acknowledge it and still read it and things like that, I think it has a lot of cool stories, and minor characters who may have had minor roles in the movies or you barely saw them in the movies. Like for instance, the Clone Wars era in particular. I mean, there was a Jedi Council, and you saw them in several scenes in episode 1, 2, and 3. You saw them here and there, and they're just always kind of in the background, or they're in those scenes when they're deliberating, like in the chambers, But you don't really know who they are. You see them, but they don't. The focus is on Anakin and Obi-Wan and all the core characters, so you don't really know who they are, but the EU fleshes them out, and if you search their names, like, you'll find their whole backstories, usually who their master was, who some of their apprentices were, and just a lot of cool things like that. Like I said, Ki-Adi-Mundi, who sits on the council, really cool dude. I talked about Anya Kiro being one of my Jedi masters. Like, she was his master, Jocasta Nu, who's the librarian in the movies, she has those couple of short scenes. Like, Jocasta Nu was a badass in her younger day, and even at one point sat on the council herself, and so she has a lot of cool backstory with her too. That's my favorite thing about the EU, just the fleshing out of all these minor characters, and I would say their attention to detail. But going on to what's the worst thing about the EU, while there are a lot of stories that pay a lot of attention to detail, of course, with any franchise, whether it be Star Wars or comic books, is really bad about this. Like, just the muddling up of continuity, where you don't know what's real and what's fake, what actually happened, things getting retconned all the time. That's my biggest pet peeve with any type of EU. Nowadays, with the storybook group, that's supposed to cut out a lot of that. But the downside of that is, they don't really care what you thought about Star Wars or the EU. They take small parts that they might like and try to claim them for their own, and just brush aside everything else. As much as I love the Clone Wars TV show that aired on Cartoon Network, they did a lot of that. And having said that, I think they got better, and they tried to canonize a lot of things, especially toward the later seasons. But there were a lot of things that, like Asajj Ventress, like her origin story. I thought her origin story was much better, in the EU. And her ultimate fate was a lot better in the EU, because Asajj Ventress is she becomes a really cool character, and her actually escaping the Clone Wars and surviving the Clone Wars. That could have left open, for her to return in a few, because a lot of people like Asajj Ventress, so that they could have brought her back, but of course in the new canon they killed her off in I think the Battle of Christophsis. So, so no more Asajj Ventress. Things like, speaking of that, Quinlan Vos and his origin story, his Jedi Master Thome. Like, Thome had such a cool backstory, in the EU, and according to the official canon now, he's just one of, Grievous's, just one of his, kills or whatever, just one of his victims, and that, that's just that. They just kind of gloss over that. But I'm ranting now, so I'll save that for another video. But let's see. Okay, so the final question on this is, what does Star Wars mean to me? Star Wars, like I said, it was one of the first major franchises I fell in love with, and I had saw the movies growing up as a kid. I liked the movies, but actually I would have to shout out my 11th grade English teacher, my English 3 teacher, Mrs. Harris, and she actually turned me on to Star Wars as it pertained to the hero story arc in literature. And once she started showing those correlations, and she was playing the movies in class and pointing out the things of how it paralleled with things like with classic works, like the story of King Arthur and the Iliad and other tales like that. Once I saw the correlation, and it opened my eyes to that, and so she turned me on to a whole nother way to look at it. And then of course after that I soaked up all I could from the movies. Then I dived into the EU and started fleshing all this stuff out. And so for me, like I said, that's just what it means to me. Like Star Wars is it's a great. I mean, I don't know. It's just a great story. The content of it, and just I think it's for all in all, like at the end of the day, I think Star Wars and the franchise is a masterpiece. I consider it one of the great works, like the Iliad. Anything Tolkien has written or anything like that. I put it up there with the great pieces of literature and art and music, and I think it's just a cultural enriching experience. Like, so that's what it means to me. That's it. That's basically it for all the questions. I hope I'm looking. I was looking on the computer at the questionnaire, but let me check myself out here on camera, although it's a little bit late for that. I hope that I'm in frame properly and it's not cutting off my head. It looked to be shooting me at a wide angle. So hopefully I'm not going out like that. So, okay, I'm looking at myself right now, and so I appear to be like in frame properly, which is good. It also cut off my bottom torso. I was worried about that because I'm wearing pajama pants. You know what I'm saying? But y'all ain't got to know the truth, but, can I get my leg up high enough? Pajama pants. So, but, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, that's going to do it for this quick Friday video. I am at 93 right now, 93 subscribers. So I have 7 more to go, guys. It is the 28th or 9th? 29th. So we have until Sunday. So I basically got the weekend. So I'm going to put out some more content this weekend. I'm going to try to live stream and, talk to you guys that way. Speaking of which, what do you got? What do you want to see me play? I've got a pretty huge collection. Well, not a pretty huge. I don't. I have like 600 games now, so that's pretty large. I've got a lot of choices to choose from as far as what you want to see me stream. I was thinking about streaming some more Fallout. I love Fallout 3. I love Fallout New Vegas. Fallout 4 is cool. So if you guys want to see me stream something, I'm looking at the picture here. I didn't really get my hat. I don't know if y'all saw my hat, but it's a really cool Star Wars hat that I'm wearing. So y'all should have just did the whole video like this. Get my head all up in the camera. Yeah. Anyway, so I digress. But now I'm just talking. But like I said, just like the video. Subscribe. Please subscribe to me. I'm 7 away. And I'm working on that game room tour video right now. I will release it when I hit 100 subscribers. So I'm only 7 away. I like to knock that out before the end of the year. So that's my goal. By January 1st, I want to be at 100 subscribers, and then I can kick that off, and that'll be my first video of the year, and it'll be awesome-ish. And yeah, so I'm working really hard on that. I'm going to show a little bit of gameplay footage in it, but 600 games. I'm not going to show gameplay footage for 600 games. It'll be like a 4-hour video. So that being said, I'm Lightsaber Samurai. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Please share this video, and that's going to do it for me. I'm out. We'll see you guys next Friday with a brand new video, and honestly, we'll probably see you before that because, like I said, I'm trying to go all in on YouTube right now. So that being said, we'll see you guys later. Have a great day. And now I got to hit this button here, this go live button. And I don't know how to do that, but I'm reaching behind the camera here. All right, I'm gonna step off frame. So while I shut off the video, admire my posters, and we will see you guys later.